Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to start my reading vlog for Passing by Nella Larsen, and I'm very excited to read this book. This is a book that was written in the 1920s by a Black author, so it fits the Black History Month really well, and it's a book that I've been meaning to read for a very long time because I think that Passing is a very interesting concept, and I've read a couple of books that deal with that, but this seems to be like the OG book about it. So yeah, I'm very excited. It's very short, so my goal is to read all of this today, and I will update you at the 25% mark, the 50% mark, and the 75% mark, and then once I've finished it, we'll see how fast I can go with this, because maybe if I can get it done, I also want to watch the movie tonight and then maybe give you a little bit of a reflection on that as well. So yeah, very excited about this book. I don't actually know what it's about, so I think I will tell you more about that once I've gotten to the 25% mark. But I think it is about two women who I think knew each other in the past and then meet again or something like that, and one of these women is passing as white, I think. So I think this has a little bit of a kind of thrillery aspect. We'll see. I'm very excited.
The Harlem Renaissance is one of the most iconic cultural periods in African American history.
So I have read the first two chapters, which is about the first quarter of the book. And in this book, we're following two women. As I said before, we have Irene and Claire. And the main character we are following is Irene. In the first chapter, we see that she lives in New York and she receives a letter, kind of an ominous letter. She reflects back on this woman called Claire, which she has known when she was a little child. And from what we hear, Claire didn't have a very good childhood. Her father was a janitor and he seems to have been quite violent. But Claire was she's described as cat-like and just not a person that shies away from danger when she wants to get something. That's kind of like the first description we get of her. And then in the second chapter, Irene reflects back and we get the story of how they met, I think 2 years ago in Chicago. And so we find out that while Irene herself can pass as white, she describes it as most people thinking that she's Italian or South European or of a similar descent, that she still lives as a Black woman, while Claire, we find out, has passed and she has married a white man. And we see this conversation of these two women who now meet for the first time in 12 years after having been kind of like childhood friends, but it seems kind of distant as well. So I'm very intrigued to see where it goes. Now the next chapter will deal with them meeting again after this chance meeting, and I think it's so interesting the kind of intrigue that is described that Irene is feeling. It doesn't feel like she wants to pass, but she wants to understand what it's like and what the appeal is. And I think that is a very interesting perspective, because that's kind of always the discussion that I think is at the core of the theme, the question of like leaving everything behind to be able to get into a more privileged position. You have to kind of like leave all of your family and stuff. And kind of, is it worth it? Is kind of the question that I always feel behind it. And so, yeah, I think this is gonna be very interesting. I'm so excited to keep reading now. And for these two characters, I'm actually already in love with both of them. The whole interaction, because of this style of talking in the 1920s, just felt so great. I just love the way people spoke. Like, it's so kind of like dramatic. You know, when they're like, from now on until Tuesday, I'll be looking forward to meeting you again. And it's just all so big and so dramatic, and it just feels like the other person that you're talking to is like the only important person on the whole world, which obviously it's not. You know, it's someone you haven't seen in like 12 years, girl. But I love that. I love that kind of language, the kind of drama that goes along with these expressions. And I also really enjoy just the kind of customs that you feel through these characters. Like, Irene really wants to ask questions about passing, about why and how Claire did it, but she feels like she can't really do that because it's not proper. You don't ask people that. And I think the whole discussion, in a way, is like very, what do you call that? It's like very frivolous, very out of the norm, discussing this in a quite public place, you know? So yeah, I really enjoyed that, the character dynamics. I love Claire because, as I said, she uses all of these like dramatic sayings, and her whole expression is like so 1920s to me. And at the same time, you always feel this kind of like danger lingering that Irene describes about her. You just really feel that she's not afraid to go for what she wants, and that's something I love about female characters in books. So yeah, I'm so intrigued, and I will have some lunch now and then keep reading this book, and I'll update you when I'm 50% through. So I am now 50% through passing, and this book is so good. I'm really enjoying it. Now in this second quarter, we get to know both of the husbands. So the husband of Claire first, but then also in the second part of this novel, the husband of Irene. And Claire's husband is a white man, and he doesn't really like Black people. In fact, he states that he hates them. And this whole scene was so uncomfortable to read, and you can just really feel Irene's like anger and frustration, and just, yeah, the suppression that she's doing on behalf of Claire in that moment, because she doesn't want to expose her. And I just really admired the way that Nella Larsen put that on the page. It was like really palpable, and you can only imagine how tense a scene like that would be. So I really enjoyed that. And now we're in the present time again. We're going back to New York, the scene where Irene just got the letter from Claire. And then Irene talks about that with her husband, and we learn that her husband is a Black man and he's a doctor, so they are a quite well-off family for the time, and he hates his job. And we learn a little bit about the kind of family dynamic of Irene, which is just a great reminder that you don't want to live 100 years ago, because basically all of Irene's life is just based on that marriage, because she doesn't really have a chance to build her own life apart from her husband. And so she has to build her life kind of through and around her husband. And I think that is portrayed in a very interesting way as well. And it just adds a little bit more depth to the story, because we don't only have the relationship of these two women, but we also kind of see what their lives are like and what the kind of limitations of them are. I'm very intrigued to read on, because even though Irene doesn't want to meet Claire again, I am pretty sure that they will. So this is probably gonna be quite an explosive meeting. We'll see. I'm just very intrigued, and so I will just continue reading now. So we're here at the 75 or rather 80% mark, and this book has definitely taken a turn in the last chapter, but basically what we have in this third quarter is that we see the meeting of these two women again, And as you would imagine, even though our main character Irene decides that she doesn't want to let Claire into her life again, Claire finds a way in there, and we have a ball happening. As I said, then things take quite the turn. Something I did expect a little bit, like you can definitely see some signs, but it's still quite surprising the way it happens. And I'm really intrigued to read the end of this now. I mentioned at the beginning that I wasn't sure whether there would be kind of like a thrillery mystery aspect to this, and I wouldn't say that it is a thriller, but there is definitely some twisted thing going on towards the end now, and I'm very intrigued to see how that goes. Like, the last part is called finale, so I am very intrigued to see what the actual finale is. I'm still really in love with our main character. I think the way she is portrayed and the way her thoughts work is really great, and I really appreciate that. There are a couple of dialogues in here that I find to be a little bit painful to read just because it has been 100 years, and at the one hand it's interesting to see how people talked and what they said. On the other hand, there's just a lot that we probably wouldn't say like that anymore, and the way they express their thoughts about race just is very far away from what we would do now, I think. So yeah, some of those dialogues, even though I think they're supposed to portray a like good character, still feel a bit itchy. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to read the rest of this now and find out what happens, and then I'm very excited to watch the movie tonight. So yeah, last quarter. Well, I did it. I just finished reading Passing, and oh well, the ending was explosive. It was not at all what I expected, but it was definitely drama. I don't really know how I feel yet. I will have to figure that out. I think this will be 5 stars, to be honest. I really enjoyed this book, even though it was very different from what I expected initially. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, the ending really is something, and I will have to think about that a little bit more. But I really enjoyed the reading experience. It was really easy to read for a classic. The language was just very easy to understand but very powerful. I really liked the way that Nella Larsen wrote and the way she used certain words and she constructed her sentences and stuff like that. I wouldn't say that this is, just plain writing, but it is still very clear to understand. There were only like 1 or 2 instances where I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but that happens if you don't read in your first language, I guess. And yeah, having read The Great Gatsby, I can say this is so much more easy to understand and follow. So yeah, I really, really love this. It is now 5, and I do have some calls that I want to make today, and then I will have a massage for my back, and then I'll come back and probably read the foreword by Britt Bennett and watch the movie, and then I will probably give you my final thoughts on this, because it's all a bit hazy right now. But I quickly want to go into a couple of spoilers if you've read the book. Just skip over this. I will mark it in the chapters so you know where to skip to come back to the spoiler-free part. But basically what happens in this last little bit of the book is that our main character kills Claire. And I did not see that coming. Like, it was definitely escalating, and I think that the way it happened, even our main character didn't expect it. I really thought we would get more of the confrontation when Claire's husband finally finds out that she's not white, that we would see like a whole scene that he would make, and it was definitely a very loaded moment. You have this party of all black people, and then there's this white man just rushing in and starting to scream at his wife, basically. But since the husband of the main character, Irene, had probably an affair with Claire, Irene uses that moment to basically get rid of her, and I think you can definitely see her thought process, that she thinks that if her husband leaves Claire, then Claire is free to further pursue Irene's husband. But yeah, I was really shocked at that last moment, and also the way that it is described how she's in shock afterwards. It's very good. It's very realistic. I think that this was just like something she didn't plan, she didn't see coming, and she was just as shocked as everyone else when it happened. And yeah, I think this is an excellent novel to explore just, how oppressive family can be, and how, especially as, a woman as Irene is, her family is her everything, is everything she ever worked for in her life, and everything her thoughts center around and stuff like that. So when that gets threatened, obviously she will fight back in all the ways she can. And I still really, really loved Claire as a character, because I think the way that she's like, I can have everything that I want and I will get everything that I want. And then later, Irene thinking that the reason why Claire gets everything that she wants is because she's ready to sacrifice everything else. It's just so interesting to me. It's definitely something that resonated with me in a way. And yeah, I just really like that perspective, and how these two women were so different, even though they came from like very similar backgrounds and they knew each other as children. So yeah, I think this ending is like definitely something something I did not expect at all, and I'm really intrigued to see how the movie deals with that as well. But yeah, as I said, I'll have to do some phone calls now and then get a nice massage, and then I'll be back. Okay, it is time to end this vlog. I have watched the movie now. I also really enjoyed the movie. I think that it is filmed in a very, very nice way, and I really like the casting as well. I like the way that the characters are portrayed. It is a very slow-moving movie, and it is also in black and white, which I think is very interesting. Obviously, it kind of fits the time period. I think that the costume design of the movie is spectacular. I really, really loved all the clothes that we see. And I think the dynamic between the two women is captured in a very good way. There are differences. We don't see so much of the childhood of Claire. We only get like one sentence or something. And then also, it doesn't feel like that much time that passes. And these are two small spoilers, so I will again mark the spoilers so you can jump over them if you don't want to be spoiled. But one thing that isn't quite so clear in the movie as it feels in the book is that Claire and the husband of Irene actually have an affair. Like in the book, I think I had more suspicions. In the movie, there's only like one scene where it feels like, yes, there is something. I don't know if that's just me. And then, I don't know, what else did I want to say? And then they also changed the timeline a bit, so it's just much faster, and it's all set in New York, not Chicago. I really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend it, but I think that if you haven't read the book, I think a lot of like the reasonings and the feelings behind are harder to grasp because you don't have like a voiceover or anything like that. And I think the book is very helpful in that. So I think if you read the book, the movie is quite great. If you haven't, I think that some things are a little bit harder to understand. And then I also read the introduction by Britt Bennett, and I think it's perfect. I think it captures the book really well too. I had a lot of moments where I was like, yeah, right, that's how I felt. A lot of like explaining just why this book is so great, why Claire as a character is so great. I really have to agree. And yeah, it was just great. This was a great day. I really enjoyed this little experiment. I hope you enjoyed it too. I hope it was fun to have like one of these vlogs being done in one day only. Let me know what you think. Also, if you've read the book or seen the movie, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you expect the ending? Because like I actually did not expect that at all. And yeah, have a great day. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.